Whenever somebody asks me what camera they should buy, sometimes I might just defer to using your phone. Now, that might sound a little bit dismissive, that might not sound like helpful advice, but hear me out for a second. Maybe you need the necessary accessories on your phone that make it do something a little bit more than just making phone calls and doom scrolling. In today's video, I'm going to talk about a couple accessories that I purchased on Amazon in order for me to try to figure out how to turn my phone into an actual content creating device. That means being able to shoot photo, keep great audio, and as well as control my exposure. All of these things I purchased on Amazon with my own money. However, one of these things I have mixed feelings about, but well, we'll get there. Now, just so we're on the same page here, this shot right now is shot in OpenGate 4x3 ProRes RAW on the iPhone 17 Pro Max. But before we talk about all the accessories, let's talk about some of the aesthetics. Now, every kiss begins with a cage, and I end up getting another green cage because this one actually isn't as transparent as the first one that I had in the original video. I'm still going for that Master Chief Michelangelo kind of style, so I am gonna get a green cage to match up with the orange because honestly, I just think it looks kind of cool. I'm a Ninja Turtles fan. I played Halo 2 pretty much all through high school. I also decided to add some lens covers as well. I actually do put my iPhone 17 Pro Max in the same pocket as my keys, just inadvertently. Sometimes it ends up happening. And the metal from the keys ends up scratching on the lens sometimes on my other phones. So I decided to cover those up with lens covers. And I get a variety of different colors, but I decided to get the ones that actually match the phone that I had. So even if you're looking at it, it doesn't necessarily look like there's an accessory on it. However, if I want to keep the glass pristine, I am going to put lens covers on top of it. And just to be sure, I am going to leave a comparison of leaving the lens covers on top of the lens and taking them off, just to see if it degrades any of the quality of the image. But to be honest, considering they're really clean and they don't have any scratches on them, I think they look just fine. And on top of that, I changed out my screen protector to get more of a matte finish. There wasn't actually a functional reason of doing this. I just think the matte finish screen covers look really cool. It only gave me one in the pack, and hopefully I installed it correctly, and we'll kind of find that out in a couple of days. But essentially, it takes out a little bit of that glare that you might get from the sunlight. Although if I put this right up in front of this key light, yeah, you're gonna see that the light is gonna wash out a little bit. But then again, also, maybe you can't look over my shoulder and see what kind of text messages I'm sending. You probably can. I just like matte finish stuff. Now, if you want to get a stable shot or you really want to make people at your local gym angry, you might want to grab one of these, and it's going to be a tripod designed for a phone. Now, you could use pretty much any phone onto here, and also I kind of forgot the name of this tripod, so I'll put it on the screen, but it's going to give you a couple of things that you're going to need if you're going to make content while using your phone. For one, you could change the orientation between shooting in landscape or shooting in portrait mode. You're also going to get a cold shoe mount to mount on accessories, which, I mean, after we get to the end of this video, you might not necessarily need to do that, but you do have the option in case you want to. You also get a pretty decent height with this guy. Now, this is kind of counterintuitive doing this inside while I'm seating, but you know, hamstring injuries. But this is actually going to get to about my shoulder height, which I'll show you in some B-roll. But also when you spread out the feet and you put it on a surface, it kind of goes a little bit more than a tripod and kind of shapes like a monopod. At the end of the day though, you're still going to get a stable shot. You're also going to get a nice little remote that you could connect to your phone via Bluetooth, so that way you could use it as a record button or a shutter button for your phone if you want to take pictures or you want to start recording on a video. This is actually a pretty small footprint once you kind of break everything down. It fits into a backpack, a purse, or even your pockets, depending on how big your pockets are. Having great image quality is going to be pretty easy on the iPhone 17 Pro Max or pretty much like almost any iPhone nowadays. However, if your audio sucks, well then it's just gonna suck. However, you can fix it by using a lav microphone or using a microphone that plugs in directly into your phone. And I use this guy. This is gonna be the DJI Mic Minis. Now, I don't have the Mic 3s, I haven't used them before, but this guy keeps a small footprint, but at the same time, this receiver plugs directly into my phone, and that way I could transmit to up to 2 different devices, and I can get some pretty crispy sounding audio. Keeping a small footprint is going to be the name of the game here, especially when I don't necessarily want to have a full rig, but at the same time, using these guys and the audio quality in there, and you can control the gain on the device itself and also on the Blackmagic app because, fun fact, it recognizes the actual DJI mics. Now, the way this actually works is that you can connect the USB-C adapter directly into your phone, but when we talk about one of the other things later on in this video, you're going to understand as to how we're able to do that. So it would be kind of weird if I went through all of the accessories here, but I didn't actually show you what the shot looks like. So right now I am shooting on the iPhone 17 Pro Max. I'm using ProRes RAW in 4x3 OpenGate, and as well as I'm recording it directly to that SSD drive, and as well as I'm using my DJI Mic Minis as my audio. So this would be what the shot would look like. This is a much smaller footprint than my Lumix S12 E. It doesn't require a lens or a little tiny tripod. I could do everything from here. Now, I am gonna do a little bit of tweaking. I am using my Uncle Kofi LUT over here, so that way I could dial in this look, I could make it look the way that I want it to, and then I could start posting right away. Now, I will say the iPhone does require a little tiny bit more light than you would have on like a full frame sensor, and eventually I'm gonna get other filters that I'm going to use with my phone in order to really dial in this look. However, if this checks out, if this looks great, there might be a lot more videos on this channel where I'm just gonna use my phone. So one of my biggest problems with the iPhone 17 Pro Max is going to be shooting in ProRes RAW. Not the fact that I have problems with ProRes RAW, but the fact is that you can't really do it internally. You need an external drive. Now, one of the things I had problems with is this has kind of a larger footprint. I mean, on my phone over here, I'm gonna have to find a case that's gonna be able to fit these two things and then find a short enough USB-C cable to go into here, and I've not been successful. However, I did pick up one of these guys. Now, this is a Lexar Go SSD drive. You can get it in a 1 terabyte or a 2 terabyte, and that way you can externally record, but also this keeps a relatively small footprint. You're also going to solve the problem of the USB-C because this little guy just connects right into here, and you can plug this directly into your phone and it still keeps a fairly small footprint. I mean, when I put this guy into here, if I want to record SSD, you could just do that, and that's a lot smaller than using a bigger drive. Now, one of the things people might ask is you only really have one USB-C port, and I just finished talking about a microphone that needs USB-C, and that's where you could actually get the little hub with this guy. This plugs into your phone first, and then you can plug in the SSD, and it gives you 2 USB-C ports. One's going to be in order to charge your phone, so you could charge your phone while you're recording content, and at the same time as you could use a USB-C device, such as using those lav mics I just finished talking about. This is going to be great, especially when you want to have all the functionality of externally recording and having audio at the same time. I feel like this is maybe deserves its own video, and maybe there will be one. And if you want to see one, you know where to let me know. But this is one of the most important things if you want to get the maximum amount of image quality while still being able to get audio, because again, those two things go hand in hand. Now, being able to shoot in the highest recording mode, being able to have crispy audio, being able to have a tripod and all the other stuff, sometimes you're going to be shooting outside and it's going to be a little bit too bright. Even though you can drop all the way down to, say, 20 ISO on the iPhone 17 Pro Max, sometimes it's still not dark enough. And that's where you're going to need one of these guys. Now, we've talked about ND filters specifically for the iPhone before, and they're sunglasses for your lens, which I'm just joking. I shouldn't make fun of people's voices, although that's my own. But one of the things you could do with this guy is control your exposure. But the only caveat is that this guy over here, I feel like was more designed for the iPhone 16 and 15 Pro and Pro Max, because while this will fit a little tiny square, this is a rectangle now. And when I put this guy on, it causes a couple of problems. For one, it doesn't necessarily sit flush on the top of my case. So what ends up happening is light leaks start to come in and it's kind of just a little bit unbearable sometimes. But also at the same time, when you're shooting on the wider angle lenses, you're gonna see the edges of that ND filter, which you could always just zoom in if you want to get rid of stuff, but also it kind of defeats the purpose of using the super wide angle lens, which I really like a lot. So this is a solution. It's a makeshift, a stopgap. However, at the time of this video, I haven't really found the proper ND filter for this. And because I want to start shooting content right away, I don't want to wait 2 months for every other company to make proper ND filters. Although, leave a comment down below which one you pre-ordered, because there's a couple I'm going to try out, because I don't think this is going to be a long-term solution. That being said, those are some of the accessories that I'm starting out with in order to kit out my iPhone for content creation. Now, this is more video focused because I am a video focused person, and maybe we'll talk about photography a little bit later. However, despite the fact that I spent an embarrassing amount of money, I feel like a lot of these things, adding it to my kit, helps take my phone to actually being able to make content and not hate myself in the process of doing it. That being said, if you guys want to check out more videos, I'm kind of on a little weird iPhone kick, but I promise more cinema camera stuff is probably in the future video, because there's a camera showing up here on Monday, but we're only going to talk about it on Monday. See you in the next one. Peace.